I mean, I'll start with Justin. Justin, I mean, he's the drummer, and I don't know, it's really cool the growth that I've seen in Justin, maybe more of him than anyone else in the band. He has this technical ability that's unbelievable, and I think sometimes actually people don't notice how good Justin is because he plays the perfect parts all the time. He plays exactly what you need at exactly the right time, and he doesn't usually overplay and he doesn't usually underplay. He's just solid.
I think Justin brings a certain precision to the band because he's such a precise drummer and a tight drummer and just so talented. He brings that tightness that I talk about constantly. He keeps that band together, and which kind of slides over to Brian as well. Them being such a talented rhythm section, that's what holds that band together, to make sure it's not too fast, not too slow, they don't get off beat. And I think Justin is just so talented at that, that he really brings that precision to the band.
Brian and his bass lines. Brian is just an innovative bass player. I mean, I could talk about his playing and I can also talk about his presence on stage, but if I start off just talking about his playing, he comes up with bass lines that people fall in love with. His bass line and Tango Between the Lines, I cannot tell you how many 15-year-old kids I've had come up to me going, "Oh my gosh, I heard your bass player," and he was like, and you're just like, that's cool, go tell him, go tell him. But he comes up with such cool things, and his presence on stage is just, it's awesome. I mean, he turns into a little kid on stage, and as much as he tries to act like he's a badass, he's not. He is a powder puff, and it comes out the moment he's on stage, and he's grinning like a damn 7-year-old kid. But it's cool, it's refreshing, and that's part of why people like to watch us, is they dig watching that.
Brian, like I said, just phenomenal bass player, helps with that rhythm section. Brian with Neil, they kind of bring a more of a rock edge to the songs. Brian has a kind of a rock, but he's still got a lot of that soul with him.
And then you could talk about Neil. Neil is the rock edge to our sound. He is the psychedelic flair that we get in our sound. And I mean, he added a lot when he came into the band, because I almost would say he made us less safe. Like, he gave us this edge and this element of whoa, that I don't think we had before. And it comes from his parts, and I don't know, his stage presence is great too. I mean, there's been so many shows where Neil plays a solo and he plays one and the crowd's into it. Plays the second one and the crowd's way more into it. By the third solo, everybody's cheering by the time he starts and cheering louder by the time he ends. And that's something that you want out of the guitar player of your band, just somebody who can take over a crowd.
And then Neil, Neil really brings a rock edge to the band. An incredibly talented guitarist. He brings the perfect guitar solos in at the right times, with the right type of effects. He knows how to make it work. He's one of those talented guitarist that knows what his role is in a band, and that's to be the guitarist and to create the guitar parts. But Neil's got that. He's got one of those looks, where the girls try to push to the front row to be in front of Neil. He's got that smile. He's got that rock star look. When Neil walks down the hall, you just know that he's got to be in a band somewhere.
Curtis and Justin are so similar in that Curtis is his playing can be overlooked, but his playing is always felt. His playing is always right where it needs to be. He's consistent, he's polished. And I mean, he actually just got a sponsorship from Moog, which is one of the biggest keyboard companies in the world, because he's good. And I think that a lot of times people don't realize how good he is because he fills in all the gaps. He plays all the things that this song needs. He thinks about it not in terms of how can I stand out, but what can I do to make this song feel complete. And Curtis's vision and his strength for our band can't really be put into words in some ways. I mean, Curtis is one of those guys, when he speaks, everybody listens because he's just so smart. And he doesn't say stuff all the time. You know, for me, I talk all the damn time. Curtis keeps his words so that when it's time, everybody just respects him and goes, yeah, you're right. He fills in the gaps in everything that we need in every aspect. And I really feel like Curtis and I need to have a TV series. I don't know what you'd call it, probably Two Angry Black Men, because we're angry and also black.
And Curtis Tate, I mean, just incredibly well-rounded musician between the keys and playing trumpet and doing backing vocals. He also helps with writing, you know, a lot with the writing, you know, they all do. But Curtis has got a certain ear for a lot of things.
And then you've got Matt. You know, Matt's role in the band is really interesting because he is one of the founding members, but people probably don't realize it just because, like, it's not saxophone solos all the time, you know what I mean? But Matt is like so much of the heart and soul of the band. It's like Matt is the sophistication in our sound. Like I said, that Neil adds the edge, Matt adds the sexy, Matt adds that chic polish on our sound that makes people go, wow, like that's older, it's mature, it's developed. He gives us that element of maturity, I think. There's an element too of soloing ability that he has that gets crowds excited and gets people excited because they're not used to hearing saxophone solos all the time. They're not used to hearing somebody who can go somewhere deep with a solo on a saxophone. Yeah, they're used to it on a keyboard. They're used to it on a guitar. Our music in our country right now is all based on guitars mostly. So when you've got that same kind of a cool element and an innovative element, but it's on something that people aren't used to, that's really cool. And that's really what Matt adds. It's a big part of the trademark of who we are.
You got a guy like Matt Tiemann who, you know, it's hard to find a you know, a talented saxophonist who wants to play, you know, rock music and you know, have that kind of feel. And someone like Matt brings that, and he brings a strong horn section just in the sax, mixed with Curtis's occasional trumpet. And Matt also, I think, just brings that. He brings a certain kind of charm to the group. He's a fun guy. He likes to have a good time, and that's, I think, very, very important. He's also very passionate, very driven, which kind of feeds through the rest of the band, which I think is a very strong thing to do. And he's a good-looking guy. You know, that's a good thing.